this is Olivia and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about our Fantasy Bingo. If you're not sure what that is a reading competition hosted by Reddit. It's not like you don't get a prize or anything that I'm aware of, but it's just for fun that they host every year. I didn't know what it was, so I figured I'd share what it is with you guys. Our Fantasy Bingo this year is going to be ran from April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. So you have plenty of time to get all of your prompts done. Today I'm going to be talking about what all the prompts are and which books I'm going to be using to fulfill those prompts. There's also hard mode and hero mode. I'm just doing normal. I don't want to stress myself out too much as I've been in the biggest reading slump of my life this year. It's getting better. I don't want to jinx it, but it is getting better, thank goodness. So our first prompt is first in a series. And for first in a series, I'm going to be starting Lady in Darkness. I'm not sure what the name of the series is, but Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roerich. All I know about this is the main character is an assassin. It's giving very Throne of Glass vibes, so I'm excited for it. It didn't really have to tell me anything else. I think there is 3 or 4 books in the series as well. I'm not sure. There could be more. The next prompt is alternative title. It means that multiple words in the title have to start with the same letter, so HH, Heartless Hunter. And this is by Kristen Cicerelli. I know it's about a witch and a witch hunter. It's a fantasy romance, so they're obviously going to fall in love, and I've heard great things, so I'm very excited to read this. Okay, so our next prompt is Under the Surface. So a part of that book, the main setting, has to be underground or underwater. So for this, I'm going to use Skyward Flight. I still have not continued with my read of this. I don't know what it is. I love this series, but I just keep putting it back down. But I'm on book 2 of this, which is Read On, if I'm not mistaken. And the majority of this setting is underground and outer space, but their home base is underground. So I'm using this for that title. Okay, so the next prompt is Criminal. So the prompt just means that one of the characters has to be a criminal, a thief, an assassin, so on and so forth. Helena Sardarthian is like the #1 assassin in the world, so I'm going to be doing a reread of Throne of Glass. I need to finish the series. It's sad, but every time I read this, I make it up to Empire of Storms. I make it up to Empire of Storms and then I stop because I'm really not looking forward to Kale's book. I know there's a tandem read that you can do. Maybe I'll try that with my reread. But yeah, so I'm going to use Throne of Glass. You only get 1 reread for this prompt, so this is my reread. I think I said you only get 1 reread for this prompt. You only get 1 reread for this challenge. And then the next prompt is Dreams. So read a book where characters experience dreams, magical or otherwise. So you have to read a book where a character experiences a dream, magical or otherwise. Sorry, I'm reading off my Kindle. I don't have all these prompts memorized. But in this, I am using The Raven Boys. I really hope that this meets it. I think it should. I've seen it on other people's TBR bingos or our fantasy bingos, sorry. I don't know much about The Raven Boys. I've heard a lot about it on booktube throughout the years. I've heard it's a lot of people's favorite books. I think one of them is like a psychic and she can see stuff, so I'm using that as my dream. So that was the first row across. Now we're doing the second row across. So the next prompt is entitled Animals. You're going to read a book that has an animal in the title. So read a book that has an animal in the title, so like in the word. So I chose The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. Once again, don't know much about this. I guess I'll break my rule and read a little bit. In her forest-veiled pagan village, Aviki, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, is the only woman without power, making her an outcast clearly abandoned by the gods. The villagers blame her corrupted bloodline. Her father was a Yuhuli man, one of the much-loathed servants of the fanatical king. When soldiers arrived from the Holy Order of Woodsmen to claim a pagan girl for the king's blood sacrifice, Aviki is betrayed by her fellow villagers and surrendered. So this is by Ava Reed, and I've heard a whole lot about her as an author. I've heard several of her books talked about on Book Talk and BookTube. So I wanted to start with her first book, see how I liked it. Please, go away. You're making too much noise. You're making too much noise. Shoo shoo. Scotty would like to say hello. Toby's down here too, but you can't see him. Come here, Tubbs. Come on, come on. Toby, come on. There he is. Here's the babies. Okay. Okay, Mommy's doing something. Go away. Scotty is losing his sight because he's very old, so he can't see where he's going half the time. Alright, so the next prompt is Bard. So you have to read a book and where the main character, or at least a main character of the book, is a bard, musician, poet, or storyteller. So for this, the only one I can think of is A River Enchanted, or maybe The Witcher, but A River Enchanted. I don't know much, and I'm not going to bore you with the synopsis again, but I know that the main character is a bard. He's going back to his hometown, and there's some type of mystery he has to solve. And I've heard great things. I read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and I really, really liked it, so I wanted to give her other series a try as well. So the next book is prologues and epilogues. You have to pick a book that has a prologue and an epilogue. I chose Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I've already read One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and I really, really loved it. It was 5 stars for me. It's one of my favorite books that I read this year. I may need to reread it, I'm not sure, but I think I remember the main points. But yeah, I want to try Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. It has a prologue and an epilogue. So that fits the prompt. The next prompt is self-published or indie published, and you just have to read a book that is either self-pubbed or indie pubbed. So I chose Glow on Amazon. It said that this is published by Raven Kennedy. I don't know why I can't talk today. I know it may have gotten picked up, I'm not sure, but as for now, Glow has not been, and I'm very excited to read this and continue with the series. This is one of my favorite series I've read in a while. I think it's a very unique setting and premise. The main character is made out of gold. She's gold-plated. She's awesome. All of her powers are she can turn things to gold, stuff like that, which doesn't sound that interesting, but it really, really is. And there's also another character, the King of Rot, and he rots everything that he touches, or when he uses his powers, it rots. It's very, very good. 5-star read for me, so I want to continue the series and continue on with Glow. So prompt 10 is romantasy. It says read a book that features a romance as the main plot, and it does not have to be fantasy. So for this, I'm cheating because I think majority of the other books have to be fantasy, sci-fi, or horror, and I don't read a lot of horror, and I do read fantasy, but mostly romantasy. So I wanted to use the romance option, and I picked Abby Jimenez just for the summer. This is one of my most anticipated reads this year. I love Abby Jimenez. I've read all of her books, so I cannot wait to read this one. This one, if I'm not mistaken, each character is going through like a good luck Chuck situation where the people that they meet fall in love with them, and then once they move on, they get out of that relationship, they meet their soulmate. So they think they're cursed, they think that they're not ever going to be able to meet their soulmate, so they decide to date each other to try and break this curse, and I'm sure they fall in love. The next prompt is Dark Academia. You need to read a book that is like fits the aesthetic of Dark Academia. Dark Academia has a dark academia setting. I don't know why I can't say that word today. It includes schools and universities, secret societies, and dark secrets. It doesn't have to be fantasy, but must be speculative. So for this, I chose Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I read, what's the first one called? Legendborn by Tracy Deonn last year. I think it was last year. It might have been the year before. And I really, really liked it. And I was so excited for this one. I'll be honest, I completely forgot majority of what happened in Legendborn. So I'm going to have to either watch like a video to get me caught up on it or reread it. I really don't want to though. So I would like to pick this up. I do know it has a lot to do with King Arthur and the Round Table. And this dark, or the secret society is like, descendants from King Arthur and the members of his round table, and they have powers, and it's set at a university, so it fits the setting quite well. Okay, and then the second prompt is multi-POV, so it has to have at least 3 or more point of views in this book. So I chose Diviners. I have had this for forever. I need to read it. Everything about it sounds like something I would like, so I don't know why I haven't read it yet. But if I'm not mistaken, it's in the 1920s, and one of the characters is a seer or a psychic. She can see things. She goes to stay with her uncle because she is a troublemaker and her parents don't know what to do with her. And her uncle owns like an oddities museum, and she can see things by touching things in that museum, if I'm not mistaken. Also, there's a crime going on. What she sees can help find the culprit of this crime. And you also get the perspective of some other people. I'm assuming they're going to make up the club for the diviners, and also the serial killer, which I think is interesting. I like true crime. I can consume a lot of true crime content. I don't know if like is the right word, but I find it interesting, so I think I'll really like this. So the next prompt is published in 2024. It just needs to be published this year. So for that, I'm actually choosing My Love Story with Yamada-kun, level 999, which I probably butchered that name. I'm sorry. I watched the anime on Crunchyroll for this, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite that I've ever watched. If anybody knows any other anime similar to that, please let me know. But they just came out with a manga, and I really want to read it. I just love this story. I love these characters. It's about this girl who gets dumped by this gamer boy that she was dating, and he falls in love with somebody else within the game. So I'm picturing like World of Warcraft type vibes. He's playing with another woman on World of Warcraft, and he falls in love with her and dumps this girl. This girl had been playing that game with him to just try and have something in common, and whenever she gets dumped, she decides, well, I'm going to continue to play the game anyways. And this guy is like one of the highest rated players of that game. And she doesn't know who he is, and they meet in person, and they start playing the game together, and they fall in love. Okay, so the next prompt is character with a disability. So at least one of the main characters within the story has to have a disability of some form. And I chose Fourth Wing for this prompt by Rebecca Yarros. I've actually read this already. 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. The dragons are my favorite part in this story. I cannot get enough of them. So if anybody has any recommendations similar to this with the dragons, I love the dragon characters. It doesn't have to be a dragon in particular. Bonus points if it is, but if it's some type of animal companion that can communicate, I would love to know what book recommendations you guys have for me for that. But the main character in Violet and Fourth Wing, she has EDS, which I'm probably going to butcher this, I'm sorry. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. She's just a lot weaker than normal people, and she has a lot of pain in her body that she has to deal with on a constant basis, which sounds terrible. I can relate to that a lot because I have constant chronic migraines all the time, and they are awful. So I really sympathize with this girl. And then she becomes a badass dragon rider, so that is awesome. Okay, so the next prompt is published in the 1990s, and this one was really hard for me. I didn't really know what to pick. So this one was really hard for me. The only one I could think of was Harry Potter, but I couldn't do another reread. So, and I really wanted to reread Thread of Glass this year. I chose Fruits Baskets, Volume 1. I, once again, love the anime on Crunchyroll of Fruits Baskets. It's one of my favorite animes. Also, I don't know how to pronounce the name, so I'm just looking for the book if I can find it. I can't. Bed and Breakfast for Spirits. It's got a name before it, but I'm not going to butcher it. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. That was also, I think that's number 1, then Fruits Baskets, and then maybe My Love Story with Yamada-kun are my favorite animes. But anyway, so I want to read the Fruits Baskets manga. This is volume 1. I didn't know it was published in the 90s, but it sure was. And so this is what I'm using for that prompt. My book stack is getting very precarious. I'm sorry if I'm messing up my words and stuff a lot. I'm reading from my Kindle because I don't have all of these prompts memorized, so it's messing me up. I'm sorry. Okay, so the 4th row across is Orcs, Trolls, and Goblins, oh my. So you just have to read a book where one of the characters is a orc, troll, or goblin. The only thing I could think of that I own on my TBR for this is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. The main character, Viv, is an orc. She opens up a coffee shop. It's supposed to be cozy fantasy, so there's not like a main plot besides the opening of the coffee shop. I've heard it's amazing, and I have anxiety, so sometimes I don't want to read any books that have like big circumstances at the end, because it really bothers me, and it just makes me nervous because I really start to love my characters when I read. But Legends and Latte seems like the perfect book for when you don't want to have that issue, because it's just cozy. She's just making coffee, making donuts, you know, whatever. And the next prompt is space opera, so it just has to be a book where the main plot is space opera. So it says, read a sci-fi book that features a large cast of characters and has a focus on social dynamics, which may be political or personal in nature, set primarily in space or on a spaceship. So for that, I chose Illuminae. I don't have a whole lot of sci-fi on my TBR, just mostly Illuminae, Skyward, and a couple others here and there. But I've had Illuminae for a while. It is mixed media. Like, for example, you have like different forms of communication. So whether that's messages, emails, just different forms. This is a medical record right here. Let me get back to it. So a medical record, different forms. It's not just a plain written story. And I don't know the main plot. I'll read it to you. The year is 2575, and two rival mega corporations are at war over a planet that's little more than an ice-covered speck. Now, with the enemy fire raining down on them, exes Katie and Ezra, who are barely even talking to each other, are forced to escape the evacuating fleet. Or with the evacuating fleet. But their problems are just beginning. The fleet's AI has gone crazy, a deadly plague has broken out on one of the ships, and nobody in charge will say what's really going on. Now, with the enemy... As Katie hacks into the tangled web of data to find the truth, it's clear only one person can help her. The ex-boyfriend she swore she'd never speak to again. So, the next prompt is author of color, so you just have to read a POC character. You just have to read a book by an author of color. So for this, I chose Amari and the Knight Brothers. Once again, I've had this on my shelf for a while. I actually read at least like 100 pages of it when it first came out, and I really enjoyed what I read, so I don't know why I haven't picked it back up. But it's by B.B. Alston. It's about a girl whose brother has gone missing, and picture like Men in Black, like that type of setting. She realizes that her brother is part of the secret society that magic is a part of, and she goes to join the secret society to figure out what happened to her brother, and maybe she has magic too. The next prompt is survival. You have to pick a book that a main plot is just trying to survive. So for this, I chose A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. It literally talks about survival in the synopsis. It says, bound in an unwanted marriage, Feyre spends her days gutting fish, but dreams of becoming a warrior and of putting an axe in her boorish husband's back. Feyre's dreams abruptly become reality when her husband betrays her to one of the region's Jarl, landing her in a fight to death against his son, Bjorn. To survive, Feyre is forced to reveal her deepest secret. She possesses a drop of goddess blood, which makes her a shield maiden with magic capable of repelling any attack. I'm not going to read more, but it sounds really, really good. I've not really read a Viking-type story before, but I've heard great things about this. Once again, pages beautiful. I got this on Amazon. And the next one is judge a book by its cover. So just pick a book that you think has a really, really pretty cover. And for me, I've already talked about this. I think this cover is so pretty. It's why I bought it. It is Where the Dark Stands Still. It gives me like Beauty and the Beast type vibes. This character goes into the forest to find this famous flower. It's like a rose or something. And it will grant you one wish if you find this flower. She gets abducted by a fae creature, and he tells her that she has to stay with him for like a year or something, and then he will give her that flower. And I'm assuming they probably fall in love. But this cover is absolutely gorgeous. So that's why I bought it. I also love Beauty and the Beast. Okay, so now we're on to the last row, which is the 5th row across. The next prompt is set in a small town. So it just has to be a book that's set in a small town. For this, I chose The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall. I know it's set in a small town. It's supposed to give like Gilmore Girl vibes, and it's witchy. And that's all I need to know. I love Gilmore Girls. Big fan. The next one is 5 SFF short stories. So any 5 short stories or novelettes are fine. For this one, I left the prompt blank because I don't have a book that contains 5 short stories. But my plan is to just do a couple of short stories that I have. So I have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and I think this has 3 or 4 short stories in it. It has 4. So Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshaki Kawaguchi. I don't know if I said that right. I'm sorry. But I want to read this. I've heard amazing things. And then I have Hex by Jenny Fagan. And this is about the... what's her name? This is about Gillis Duncan and her final hours. A person travels back in time to visit with her and talk with her right before she's about to be executed. And I've heard amazing things about this. I enjoy anything witchy related, and I know this is probably going to be sad, but I still really want to read it. So those are my two for the short story. So the next prompt is Eldritch Creature. I'm going to read you this because I did not know what an Eldritch Creature was, so I'm assuming you probably don't either. Or you may. But an Eldritch Creature. So read a book featuring a being that is uncanny, unearthly, and weird. This can be god or monster from another plane or realm, and is unusually beyond mortal understanding. I chose Fire in the Flesh because the male protagonist in this is pretty much like Hades, the god of death. I don't know, can't remember exactly what it is that he's called, but this is the third or fourth book in the series, the spinoff of From Blood and Ash from Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I just really want to read it. Let me see. He is a primal god, sorry. There's also dragons in this, which I really, really like. So yeah, I highly recommend this series. The next prompt is reference material, so it just has to feature a map or a glossary, a footnote, something like this. So I went with The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is a book about a girl named Evangeline Fox who is willing to do anything to just be with her true love. The guy who she thinks is her true love is getting married to her stepsister, and she's under the assumption that he has been cursed. So she makes a deal with a fate named Jax. He's the Prince of Hearts, and in this deal he tells her that at any point she has to kiss somebody of his choosing, of his timing, and there's 3 kisses, and then he will do what she needs him to do. But she doesn't know how he's going to do it, and it leads to a lot of trouble, and I don't know if any of that made any sense, so I apologize, but this is a really good book, and I want to continue on in the series. So the last prompt is a book club or a read-along book, and any past or active fantasy book clubs count as well as part of one of the Reddit book bingo, part of their books that they've chosen as part of their book club, and they have a full list of books mentioned and linked within this post. So from that, I chose When Gracie Met the Grump by Mariana Zapata. I've read every Mariana Zapata book besides that one. I wasn't as interested in it because it's about a superhero. I'm not really into Marvel or DC or anything like that, so I wasn't sure if I'd like it. I love her writing though. I love a slow burn romance, so I'm gonna give it a shot. That was the one that interested me the most. So When Gracie Met the Grump by Mariana Zapata is my last book. So that is what I had to share with you guys today. Yeah, if you guys want to try and join in on the Our Fantasy Bingo, I recommend going to Reddit, Fantasy Bingo 2024. They have a whole thing where you can build your bingo board, and it's really fun. Sounds like fun. I love a good reading challenge, so highly recommend. My book stack's about to fall, so I better go. But I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.